I didn't know what his plan was. All I knew is like it was a strong, strong nudge. And, he was telling me to jump off a cliff and I jumped off a cliff. And what ultimately happened, I had no idea where he was going to take me, but I just put one foot in front of the other.
Have you ever had that nudge? My friend, my guest today, Pigott Martin, has had that nudge so many times that I swear she doesn't even get the fear anymore. She really has redefined courage in my world, and I have just fallen in love with her and her complete surrender to God and wherever He leads her. Be sure to stay to the end because you're going to love some of the crazy, crazy stories that Andi shares with us today. Do you fear what lies beyond retirement? What if it's a gateway to a life filled with purpose, meaning, and adventure rather than an end? Discover peace and fulfillment as you boldly enter this new chapter in Courageous Retirement, a Christian podcast. I'm your host, author and coach, Vona Johnson. Let's get started. Thank you so much for joining me today. We have been talking about having this conversation for a while now, long before Courageous Retirement was a thing. So we've finally connected, and I'm just so excited you have an amazing story. When I think of courageous retirement, I feel like you would wear the label to the extreme.
Yes. You are so sweet. And thank you so much for having me. It's such an honor and privilege. And, I have no idea. I mean, I kind of know why you have me on here, but it's, I think, brave to put somebody like me on a retirement program. So thank you.
Well, and I think we should explain what you mean by that to the listeners. You're welcome. I'm glad to have you here because you're not officially retired, not at the retirement age, not something you plan to do. But I think your life, your story exemplifies when I talk about courageous retirement, I'm not talking about hand gliding or bungee jumping or hot air balloon riding even. I'm talking about trusting God with whatever it is He calls us to. And again, I feel that you exemplify what that looks like to just say, okay, God, let's do it.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, I love it. You said yes to God in a big way. When we talk about God giving us a nudge and having the courage to say yes, the nudge He gave you was like not just, hey, why don't you, move across town or quit your job and go live off of your pension for the rest of your life. He asked you to do something big. So let's start there and talk about what that ask was.
Well, okay. Yeah, there were a couple of nudges like that. And so the first one was in 2020. When all things 2020 happened, I felt like the Lord was saying, sell your business, sell or give away everything you own and get out of Colorado and go to New Hampshire. And it didn't make sense. I didn't know what I was going to in New Hampshire. I didn't know what his plan was. All I knew is like it was a strong, strong nudge. And, he was telling me to jump off a cliff and I jumped off a cliff. And what ultimately happened, I had no idea where he was going to take me, but I just put one foot in front of the other. And what ultimately happened in New Hampshire was I got to train two pastors in how to do this healing and deliverance or inner healing deliverance ministry. And that wasn't the plan. I had been part of one when I was in Colorado, and it was such a beautiful thing. And then the Lord's like, okay, this needs to happen in New Hampshire. You're going to be the one to train them. And I thought it was going to be my ministry. And at the very end of it, we'd been meeting and training for almost 2 years, not quite 2 years. And I thought it was going to be mine. And we were going to open it up to the public. Well, right about the time we were about to open it up to the public, the Lord's like, no, you're going to hand this over to Rhonda and John, and it's theirs now. I have something else for you. And that's when, once again, he said, okay, give up everything and just follow where I'm leading you.
So I need you to stop for just a second.
Yes.
When he says that, so this is twice now, he said, go do this thing. How, I mean, I'm assuming you're not visibly or audibly hearing him talking to you. So how do you know that it's God talking to you? Because I'm guessing there are people that are listening to go right now going, yeah, I don't know. So
Yeah, that's a very, very good question. And the answer that I give to everybody when they ask me, well, how do you know? You have to shut up. Right? You have to shut up and listen. And I've walked people through this where I'll just say, pray, ask him a question, and then shut up and listen. I might say it nicer than that, but the reality is what I see, what my problem used to be, and what I've seen in other people is we ask God something like, "Dear Lord, can you show me the direction for blah blah blah?" And then you keep talking, and you never have the chance to actually hear Him speak. And the Scripture says He speaks in a still small voice. You can't hear that if you're still talking, and so I do actually hear that still small voice when I stop talking. And
yeah, and I'm glad you brought that up because in my second book, The 10 Essential Habits, the first three are to be in the Word, to be in prayer, and be still. And sometimes it's not even just stop talking, but turn off the TV, turn off the radio, turn off all the things. It's like, when was the last time you went for a walk? Well, probably not you specifically, because you
eh,
know that you're listening. But for me, a long time, when was the last time I went for a walk without earbuds in my ear, listening to a podcast or even music? But just listening to the quiet and taking in the thoughts that come through my mind when I don't have something else talking in my ear, right?
right. And that's cycling for me
Yeah.
is there's no music going on. The phone is shut off and it's God and me and it's processing time. And that's where some of my best ideas come from and his best ideas get downloaded. And you're absolutely right. You have to spend that time where you're not bombarded with all kinds of stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. So, okay. So he's now told you a second time,
Right.
let's take off. Let's go. So,
And this is a cool story. I love, and it'll be a good example of what he actually said. It's not always audible. And sometimes he's going to put something in front of your face that tells you exactly what you're supposed to do. But it was January of 2023. In my room, the thought goes through my head of I should really, work some more on my book. So I should start, I need to go write a little more in the book. And instead of going to write in the book, I start scrolling on Facebook. Well, the second thing I see on Facebook is this ad that's bright yellow ad with big black, huge bold lettering and a typewriter. It says, "Is God calling you to write a book?"
right?
So yeah, I'm like, all right, I hear you. I hear you. And so I decided it was a Kingdom Writers book, Kingdom anyway, a book writing challenge. And it was through Square Tree Publishing, and I love them. And so they have been absolutely fantastic. But that was my first introduction to them, and they were great about pushing me to write the book. Well, when the Lord was telling me, okay, you're handing this ministry over to Rhonda and John, he tells me to go on a 7-month cross country camping book writing trip. Like the whole point was for me to get the book written and finished. And he flat out said, I am giving you, he's like, you have a window of opportunity because he's been telling me to write this book for years. He goes, I'm giving you a window of opportunity. You can either take that opportunity and do the thing I've been telling you to do, or I'll get somebody else to write the book I've been wanting you to write, but they'll get the blessings that I had in store for you. I'm like, okay, all right, loud and clear. And so, yeah, I went on this 7-month cross country camping adventure thing, gave up everything again. And it was phenomenal. there's not much I'm afraid of, but right before I'm about to do this, terrified. And, just this massive demonic attack. But the Lord swooped in. He had two of my best friends at the same time while this attack was happening contact me, say, "Hey, are you doing okay? I'm praying for you." And yeah, he's so good about that. And yeah, it was the Lord and me went on this camping trip, and I thought I had a plan. My plan was to go along the coast. And Bill was like, "Yeah, that's cute." Pretty much every day I would have a plan and he'd be like, "Yeah, that's cute. That's not what you're doing today." And so it was a great, great experience of just leaning into God every single day and just trusting that the things that were put on my path were from him. The directions that I suddenly had to take that I didn't expect to were from him. And he over and over and over again would put people on my path that either needed to be introduced to him, needed his calling on their life spoken over them, or just needed to hear how good he is. And so, yeah, there are people that I got introduced because I'm looking for free campsites everywhere. So who else do you think is at those campsites? It's drug dealers, it's prostitutes, it's drug addicts, it's people that I didn't tell my parents I was meeting. And so these people would ask me, "Well, what are you doing?" And so I would tell them, I'm writing this book. And I would talk to people like they had the same relationship with Jesus that I do. That's how I talk. And either people think I'm crazy or they want to know more or they're on the same page. And so it's been a fabulous opportunity. But I got to
Okay.
talk to people about Jesus.
I love how you mentioned that God just brought people into your life, because I believe what courageous retirement is less about what we go do or if we get a job or don't get a job or whatever. It's responding to the people that God brings into our life in a loving, kind way. And you have been given an opportunity to do that to some of the people that a lot of people would turn and walk the other way from, out of fear, out of judgment, or whatever. I assume that you'd feel that draw to people and to pull them out and help them feel loved. Would that be true?
Yeah, absolutely. I love that question. It's because God has just done such a work in my heart getting to be out there with people like I talked about and see the need for him and see the need for them to be seen as human and how he sees them. And if I can jump back to maybe, I think 2015, 2016, I'm going to tell you an embarrassing story, kind of embarrassing because um, back then, like, I judged homeless people, the people on the streets with the signs asking for money. I, I'll be honest, I judged them, and the Lord really started working on my heart. And he did this theme of, he would put Bible verse after Bible verse in front of my face where he's saying, if somebody asks for something, give it to them. And he started really impressing on my heart that if these people were asking at the street corners, that I was supposed to give them something. And I argued with him, like, "Lord, if I have to do that, then I'm not going to be like, that's going to be so much money." I mean, this was Denver. They're
Yeah.
they're at I felt like they were at every single street corner. Well, he finally convinces me after a lot of arguing to just keep a stack of ones in my console in my car. And so I did. And what happened was so incredibly amazing because he changed my heart. I went from trying to avoid these people to like looking for them so I could give them money. And what was so really cool, he's so good. I love this experience. I love that he worked this in my heart. But I started talking to these people and here's a dollar. There were so many of them that would be like, "Oh, God bless you." The amazing thing is these dirty sorry, dirty, ugly, gross looking people that no one would be even remotely attracted to. So many of them had the most amazing eyes. They had these crystal clear blue, green eyes that were just gorgeous. It's not, you just don't see them. And I started noticing this over and over. And I'm like, these are angels. I really believe that, not all of them, but quite a few were angels on assignment. And one of them, oh, this was so cool. I was at a stoplight and I'm talking to this one lady about the weather. And I, s- I don't remember what all was said, but I said, yeah, but I think the sun will be back soon. And she looks at me, she goes, yes, he will. Whoa. Are you kidding? It made my day for, the rest of the day. I was just like, that was an angel. I have no doubt. And so I'm so glad God did that work in my heart back in, I think it's 2015, 2016, because then when I got out in this camping, I'm basically homeless myself.
And not
And
not a really big husky gal either. You're just a tiny little thing.
I am tiny, yes, 5'1", if that. I think I
Mm.
shrunk. Um, but yeah, so my heart had already been softened enough that when I got to talk to these people, it was, I got to see them more in the way that God sees them. Probably not as much, definitely not as much, but see them as human. And I met so many good people that I think the rest of the world would normally just discard.
Yeah.
So it was just such a great experience.
Yeah. No, I think that is really beautiful. And I don't know. I mean, we're all on a different path. I love the picture of if we all just did what God asked us to do every day and didn't back out of doubts whether we could do it or fear of what might happen if it didn't go well. If we all just did everything that He asked us to do, can you imagine how beautiful our world would be?
Wow.
Right?
Oh, so good. That would be heaven.
I think there will be. It will be. You're right. But in the meantime, we're here and we're dealing with humans who are fallible, who do have doubts, who do have fears. And let's be honest, probably nobody that's listening to this episode today is going to go sell everything and go travel, months on end, writing a book or meeting homeless people or anything like that. But the point of having this conversation is that extreme courage that just when God talks to you, and He will, to trust Him. I mean, maybe all He's asking you to do as a listener is to go ahead and take retirement so that you can go volunteer at the homeless shelter, or you can go volunteer at the women or the men's prison, or go read a book at the elementary school to kiddos who don't have anybody that cares enough to sit down and read with them. I mean, everybody's ask is different, but we just need to do what we're being asked, right?
Absolutely. And Jesus even says, those who lose their life for me will find it. And that's exactly what's happened is I said yes to losing my life. And had I not gone up in 2019, all my prayer journal read, Lord, I feel so overwhelmed. Lord, I need rest. Lord, what I can't do this. And then in 2020, he gave me rest. I'm no longer overwhelmed, but I'm working for him. And yeah, I would still be in that overwhelmed, tired state of constantly trying to achieve had I not said yes to just doing what he said, doing what he asked. Wild adventure.
And I really love that because I feel like the world has us all convinced that our identity is in the achievement, the title, the salary, the car, the all the things. And so we're just constantly on this treadmill, running, running, running to get all of these things so that we can feel good about who we are. And all he's saying is, honey, stop, right? Just get off the treadmill. Like, that doesn't mean quit your job if you're not quite ready for that. And you'll know when you're ready. If you're not quite ready for that, start looking at all the things that are pulling at you and trying to evaluate which ones are of God and which ones are of the world, trying to take you away from what is of God.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And if he's telling you he will provide. And you know this, when I went off on the camping adventure, I had a part-time job. I was an executive assistant remote. And so I had some money coming in. And in June of that year, the Lord said, if you don't start doing what I'm asking you to, I'm going to take that job away from you. And so what was going on is I was on the computer so much for my job that I didn't want to be on the computer to write the book. And so sure enough, a month later, I still what he has to discipline me a lot.
I'm
And
surprised by that. I really am.
no, it's true. It really is. We argue a lot. And ultimately he wins, but sometimes, yeah, sometimes I really have to be pushed. And so, sure enough, it was almost, I think it was a month exactly after he said that, I lost that job. And so then I start looking for another job and I hear him say, no, you work for me like you worked for Jerry. You do not look for another job. You write the book, you do the thing I'm telling you to do, and I will provide for you. And I said, yes, sir. And sure enough, he did. It was bizarre, the different ways that money would come in, the different ways that he absolutely took care of me. I ate better than I probably ever have. Um, he took fantastic care of me while I was doing what he was telling me to do. And he's gonna, if you're following him, if you're seeking his kingdom first, all these things are gonna be added to you. I don't know the address of that scripture, but seek ye first the kingdom of God, and all these things will be added unto you. And it's true. If I'm doing what I'm told and uh, completely obeying him, then he's faithful. He's faithful to provide. It's not That doesn't mean that we're not gonna have struggles. It doesn't mean that we're not gonna face trials, but it does mean that he will use all of those things for good. Quite often, well, for me personally, quite often, he would take me down to absolutely nothing, and I just had to trust him that he was gonna provide, and sure enough, every time he would provide. But it's quite often at the very, very last minute. And so it builds up that faith muscle like crazy. And so now when you say you can't see me arguing with God or having to be pushed, it's because he's built up that faith muscle to trust him every time, when he says to do something that, okay, I need to just do it. So yeah.
Yeah.
Course.
And I love that. And it's kind of funny because for me, it's a similar story, but on the other side of the coin almost. I started all of this after having retired. I retired to become a coach, but I was so focused on being a successful coach and how many clients I had and how much money I was making and whatever. And he too told me to write a book. But I was so busy trying to build the business that I wasn't making time to write the book. And then I don't remember him ever audibly saying, hey, do this or I'm going to take it away from you. But all of a sudden, I went in for my mammogram and found out I had cancer. And that's another way he'll slow us down if we need to. I'm not saying he gave me cancer, but I'm saying it got my attention and it helped me realize I went through this thought process and it was like, oh Lord, if this is it, what what do I need to get done? And it was write the book, finish the book. And yeah, I even did a whole episode on my last podcast called Permission to Pause, because as I was going through this, it's amazing all the things that go through your head between, the mammogram and the actual confirmation of what the diagnosis and the prognosis and all of that's going to be. And at one point, it was like, oh, I don't really have to have cancer to give myself permission to go do what God's asked me to do. I can do this anyway. But it was just a huge wake up call for me. And so again, even afterwards, though, and the book was published, and I kept striving and striving, and it was like I need to pay for this. I need to, and what the message I got was, haven't I already provided for you? You have a wonderful retirement package. You have what you need. Go do what I'm asking you to do, which is, the second book, the coaching, all of the things that go with. So again, our journeys are all different, but the message is loud and clear. In addition to seek me, it's trust me, right?
Right? And what I find so beautiful about that story is you're telling it in a way where you see the good that came out of it. You see, like, here's this awful thing. And once again, the Lord uses it for good, for you to have a wake up call and get the things done that you need to get done because of the bad thing. So I love that.
Oh, this was so much fun. So, so beautiful. So many examples of how we can trust God and just step into whatever he's calling us to. I like to give my listeners an opportunity if they're listening to this and they're like, I kind of like this Andy chick. I want to know more about her and hear more of her crazy stories. Where could they go to learn more about you and follow
Well,
your story?
I have a lot of stories on my Substack, which is andypigottmartin.substack.com. And it's ANDIPIGOTTMARTIN.substack.com. And I greatly appreciate the opportunity. God has given me so many good, wonderful, awesome stories that, Vonna, I just thank you for putting that out there so that people can check him out because he is good. He is so good.
He is so good. And I just am so blessed that he brought you into my life and we get to walk this path together.
Me
Thank you, my
too.
friend. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Isn't she great? I just love talking to Andy and watching how, with her extreme obedience and just in trusting God, he is taking her to places that many of us will never see. Don't get me wrong. I don't believe that God will ask many of us to do what he has asked Andy to do. But I think she's a great example of that trust, that she just knows that she can trust God no matter what. So whatever he's asking you to do, I pray that you will step into that. I pray that you will have the courage to take that journey, that unexpected journey that he has for you. I think that you will be extremely blessed if you will do so. If you're interested in learning more about Andy's journey, I encourage you to go check out her Substack. I will put the link in the show notes. If you enjoyed this interview with Andy, I want you to know that there is more to it. It got long, so I cut some of the pieces off into separate videos, and I encourage you to go look for those now or go listen to the full interview on any audio platform that's out there. So thanks so much for coming by today. Come back in a couple of weeks where I'm going to share some of the lessons that I got from unplugging for a week and traveling to a place that has been on my bucket list for decades. I can't wait to share that with you. Until then, I pray that you will live in courageous retirement and always, always live your more.